Good, good. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. Hello, hope everybody is well. Not legal advice. Like, subscribe, share, comment, destroy, whatever. Hopefully, something good will come of this, some information that you hadn't thought about, or something else, or something else. So, this particular video, I just wanted to, in the spirit of the holiday season, I wanted to point out specifically again and make the point why I think Alpine are scumbags and Finra and the SEC. I think they kind of go together. It's one complete picture. And whereas mmtlp is the last year, and obviously I've been involved in that and I'm aware of that over the past year, and that's the current. But what Alpine is over the past 40 plus years is really the problem. That is the greater problem. So I kind of wanted to address that in this video. Hopefully it'll go quickly and hopefully it'll kind of be clear. So, of course, before I start, what happens when it rains cats and dogs? Sometimes you can step in a poodle. What is the most popular winter dog? Of course, a chili dog. And last and least, what do you call a very, very pudgy psychic? A four-chin teller. Anyway, so I kind of wanted to talk about Alpine and think about this. 1984 through 2022, over that period of time, over 40 convictions, separate violations, either where they admitted to them or they were convicted. And that's misappropriation, documentary issues, supervision issues, all kinds of business practices, all bad. So during that period of time, 40 separate times that they were convicted of that. So if they were convicted of something 40 times, you can only imagine the multiple of times that they actually engaged in that improper conduct over that period of time. It's got to be like literally millions of times, millions of violations. That goes on for 40 years, nothing. So, FINRA, the SEC take very minimal action. They may punish them, they may fine them, but you would think after 40 years of misconduct, continual, without any change, without any upgrade in practices, that perhaps they might take action, but no. And that concerned, besides the what I indicated before, it also concerned misappropriation of client money, overcharging. And we're not talking about a few bucks, we're talking about millions of dollars. So that goes on. And then on top of that, we have thousands of violations of the Bank Secrecy Act. And they took that up on appeal. So it went up to the appellate level and they lost. They were fined $12 million, which for them is a substantial sum. And they were accused and found to have committed thousands of violations of the Bank Secrecy Act. That means not providing information or not providing proper information or not providing complete information. That act came about post 9/11 to stop uh, money laundering, but mostly to prevent terrorism. And recently, Binance and their cohorts are in trouble and pled guilty and worked out a deal in large part because of violations of the Bank Secrecy Act and allegations that they were involved in terrorism or funding terrorism. So, with those thousands of violations on top of the 40 years of 40, it sounds like biblical. 40 years and 40 violations. It really does sound biblical. But we have these violations of bank secrecy. So are they funding terrorists? Are they money laundering? Has the FBI and Secret Service looked into that? Why not? We know they have an offshore presence. We know that they engaged in transactions in the Cayman Islands. All foreign money transactions were processed through the Cayman Islands, did not make it back to the US. You wonder why, what that could have shown if it was disclosed fully or run through the United States. But anyway, that happened. I don't know if the Secret Service or the FBI is reviewing those transactions either. But then we have that. That's the base. Still nothing, by the way. They're still operating, still going on. And then in 2022, there's a proceeding. FINRA goes after them and they prevail, and they get an order expelling them for misappropriating, I think, on the order of $54 million. I think that's what I recall. And thousands of more violations and misappropriations, misconduct. So they get an order, and because of procedure, they have to wait to enforce the order. But there's also a cease and desist order. So all that stuff that they were found to have committed after they had 40 years and 40 violations, convictions, and admissions. After all that, they get convicted, they get an expulsion order, cease and desist. And during that time, after the cease and desist, in 2022 and 23, they do dozens of thousands of more violations. And as of this point in time, FINRA, the SEC, are still twiddling their thumbs, letting things go to pot. These are violations that harm consumers. Let me back up before I finish that part of the story. During several years, somebody who was dealing with the regulators, who was an admitted, I think I said he was convicted sex offender. That might be mistaken or misspoken. He actually was an admitted sex offender. I think he was charged and he admitted to the crime. So this gentleman was part of Alpine, and Alpine, knowing this, tried to make him as the representative of the company for corporate purposes. And again, he's the one who dealt with the regulators. So issues about naked short selling, counterfeiting, phantom shares, whatever you want to call it. This gentleman, who was a admitted sex offender, was the point person designated and chosen by Alpine. And we get to the point where FINRA and the SEC in 2022, late 2023, after discovering, I don't know where they were, what they were doing, why they had not acted sooner, but then they go after to try to expel, do an expedited expulsion of FINRA after discovering tens of thousands of violations. Why they let that misconduct go on, why they let the public be harmed is nonsensical. But eventually they acted. That ended up leading to the injunction that was sought by Alpine, which was granted at least temporary by the appellate court. There's now an appeal pending, and that's going forward. But the SEC and FINRA at no point in time intervened to put Alpine out of business when they could at any point in time, as they could today. So all that stuff went on. Alpine still is trying to get a stay or delay. Why would they be doing that? Perhaps they think for some reason they're going to prevail, but more likely, and this is my speculation, is they're trying to hide assets offshore, try to organize new businesses or other such similar conduct. But the SEC and FINRA do nothing. All they do is wait. They wait. They wait for the Supreme Court to act. They wait for the Court of Appeals to act. They could go into federal court and stop this nonsense. So we have the ultimate pair of scumbags. On one side, we have Alpine engaging in all types of conduct, all kinds of theft, the hiring of sex offenders. It's a joke, really. I couldn't make up this story. It's a litany of misconduct, felonious activity, immoral activity. And the SEC and FINRA stand there like they can't believe it. They can't act. And that's the other side of it. So we have the one side scumbags. Excuse me for 1 second. We have the scumbags of Alpine commits all kinds of misconduct. That's on the record. This is not disputed. And then we have the government and the regulators and those with immunity who do jack and let it happen. Equally responsible. For the first couple of times, perhaps, that FINRA and the SEC didn't shut down Alpine in 1984 or 1986 or 1988 or 1992 or 1995, is corresponding with violations and years. But there was apt opportunity. If you made a mistake, okay, you can correct it. If you made two, okay, we'll give you an opportunity. At some point in time, if you made 36 consecutive mistakes, at some point you might construe that that was not a mistake and the conduct was intentional. And most of the conduct that is portrayed and described and admitted against Alpine impacted consumers and hurt the public. So that's why they're both scumbags. And on this holiday period, they both should be acknowledged with that high honor of being scumbags. So we have Alpine being just absolutely detestable business practices and immoral activity, immoral employees. And then we have the government who is inept, incompetent, impotent. And we have others, I won't name names, who aren't willing to issue subpoenas, but that shall remain nameless. But anyway, so with all that in mind, understand that at some point in time, Alpine will pay the price. There will be a price. But understand that the government has permitted Alpine to get to the point it is today. It's like a kid who does things they shouldn't be doing, and at some point in time they have to be disciplined, but really disciplined, because if they're not, they're going to lose out. And here Alpine is just going off the deep end, and the government has let them. So stop it. Stop it now. Have a happy holiday, by the way. Yeah, to FINRA and the SEC, the best holiday you can have and the best present you can give to everybody is do your jobs. Have a good night. Take care.